guess everyone.
We could say pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. I'll ask again if there's any citizen comment.
No, but do you have an extra copy of the agenda for me? Thank you.
In old business, we have the package here. And in them you have the minutes from the February 4th, 2013 special meeting on February 25th, 2013 for review.
Mr. Vice President, I have read these, and I move that we approve both the minutes of the February 4th meeting and the special meeting on February 25th.
I have a motion by Mary Helen Seacon. Second by Mr. Mike Curry. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passed without opposition. Moving on to second item under old business, treasurer report and review. Treasurer Talley.
Yes, I just under the treasurer's side, I just want to. I don't have an official report tonight, but just wanted to note a visit today that we had with the auditor, and it's a good visit. She was at the FEDC office today, and we visited about the office, and she said she was very much appreciative of the organization. She could tell that things have been really improving and are on the right track. She hopes to be back, is it Friday, Mr.
Friday.
Friday. And so she has a list of a few things for us to follow up on, but looks like things are shaking out pretty good there in terms of getting what she needs to wrap up. The only other thing I wanted to point out is that we do have a debt service due on the obligation that we have with the city of Floresville. And in looking at the number, I was calculating some numbers, and I thought something seemed to be a little bit off, and what it was a rounding error. The city's corrected that, and so we identified that for 2000, or the last payment. Yeah. So that would have been 2011. Let's see, 11. Yes, and it amounts to a couple $100, that was the error, but we're also looking at the previous year to identify that. So they did correct that, okay? It was just a rounding error with the decimal points. And so the debt amount for that debt service will be $27,292.20. And so I wanted to just bring that to everyone's attention that we were looking at those schedules just to make sure that matched the numbers that they had.
And that $27,292 is the debt payment we just made, and that is for the interest for the semi-annual, correct?
Yes. And that's really all I have to report. The only expenses we have are just expenses you saw at the previous meeting, which is Kathy Cooper and Mr. Ramirez as far as his salary.
Thank you, Mr. Talley. Anything else you'd like to report? That concludes the treasury report. Committee report. I believe we have the finance and the personnel committee. Any report from either one of the committees at this time?
On the personnel committee, I just want to be sure, has the job description been posted with the TNL?
It's, I think Andy's working on that, getting it to the TML people, so
that
they can.
Should be done.
Yeah, and I think that and the other was the research the paperwork, you know. But those two will be sent to, you know, to the PML for their process.
Any other committee reports? Executive officer report, David Crozier, our president, is out today, so there will be no executive reports at this time. So at this time, if there's, we can move on to new business. First item is A, consideration and action to extend and amend commercial contract with Eric and Lisa Rodriguez on property at Lone Oak subdivision, lot 1, 2 acres, and extend the contract to May 1st, 2013, and subordinate deed restriction to borrower's lender. What I have here, if you'll take one and pass them around. Y'all want? I have another here too. Okay, first thing I want to do is last Monday, a week ago, we were under the understanding with Eric and Lisa's lender at that time that they could accept and go ahead and close this loan. And this division with Murray Title. The next day following, they looked at title commitment, and the lender could not accept the deed restrictions and the buyback provisions on it. So I started working with Howard and the lender, trying to come up with a palatable solution possibly to this thing. And Howard prepared this amendment to the contract, and I'm going to disclose you right now, in the past day or two, I've had some discussions with Eric and Lisa, and so there's a little bit of conflict of interest. So I'm not going to be voting on this at all. I'm going to strictly present the information and the facts and call for a vote. So I'm going to be abstaining from any voting on this tonight. What the situation was is there are a couple. The buyback provision that we had in the original contract allowed the FEDC to buy the property back. The issue with that would be if you have a lender out there that has a loan against it, and then we exercise our buyback on it, our loan could be, our buyback could be less than their loan, especially if they've gone in and started development of a bowling alley or things like that. So there's an issue trying to buy it back for less than they cost or anything like that. Second issue is the deed restriction to a bowling alley. When you come in there and you put a deed restriction on anything like that, it affects the marketability and the value of the property. So it would have affected the value for Eric and Lisa being able to put a bowling alley on it from a lender, because now you have a single purpose piece of property. So those things in conjunction with the contract that expired made it a situation where it just wasn't going to work. We can come in and we can leave the contract exactly as it is, where they had to put a bowling alley on it, it's deed restricted, and we have a buyback, which means they got to pay cash for it. They got to go out and try to get financing for a bowling alley when we probably hindered their appraised value. The opposite side is we could extreme go to completely the other end and just say, we're selling it to you, we're taking away all the restrictions, the deed restrictions, no buyback provision. Probably what is workable for us is a compromise somewhere in the middle, is Sam Raven would say, is the deal on this thing. So what I had put before you here is something that we proposed to the lender, and they are acceptable to this. And basically, in paragraph 1, we're saying that 12 months, and I also visited with Eric and Lisa on this, they had 12 months after closing this to start construction of a bowling alley facility. And then after they do it, operate it for 12 months, they have to operate it as a bowling alley for 12 months at least. I think it was sold to Eric and Lisa under premise it was going to be a bowling alley, and their bid was selected over some others that wasn't. So if that was the premises the prior FEDC was doing, it would probably be in our best interest to allow them to continue that they need to put in a bowling alley. B is basically we're taking out the deed restriction But it's basically the best that we can do with forcing them to comply with putting in a bowling alley. And basically, if they do fail to require, we have a right to enforce the provisions that they do come in there. And this language was drafted up by Howard. And then C, it basically is our obligation, deed restriction, and everything is subjugated to the lender. In layman terms, if worst case scenario happened, and this deed had to be foreclosed on by the lender, all bets are off. The lender can get a good, clear title to the property and try to do it. And just to let you know, First National Bank isn't the lender that they're talking to on that. So there's not a conflict of interest, it's a third-party lender. So this is what we've come up with. They're doing it. I'm not saying this has to be, but we had to start somewhere and try to get to it. So that's what I'm throwing out. We have Howard here to answer questions for legalese on this and all.
You said the lender was agreeable to this language?
Yes, I sent them that. Julie forwarded on it from Murray, and they approved it. And I told them actually it was contingent upon our attorney preparing the documentation and things like that to our satisfaction.
Cell phone's going off. Oh. And you said it was to their satisfaction?
I had already asked Eric and Lisa and perused this in generality with them to see if they was acceptable.
Yeah. I do have one question about the abstaining of votes when we just have the quorum made here with the four of us. Does that affect the quorum if a vote is
That thought ran through my head, but the quorum is 4, and you can have abstentions.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, I just want to
Then
make
throw
sure.
it to her.
Yeah, you can.
I know I looked at you, I was thinking the same thing.
Well, I make a motion that we approve the amended commercial contract as presented for Eric and Lisa Rodriguez.
I'll second.
Have a motion by Jason Talley, a second by Mike Curry, to amend the contract between Floresville Economic Development Corporation and Eric and Lisa Rodriguez concerning property at 108 Lone Oak Drive, Floresville, Texas, is before you here. I have a call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? There are none opposed, and I would like the record again to recite that I respect the vote. B is kind of tied in with C. It's a consideration and action to ratify and authorize Ram Ramirez to sign an extension regarding the 3 contracts. And C, the Laredo Hydro, because in the last meeting we had the discussion. Merlindo wanted to have an extension filed on those contracts before they expired on February 28th. My understanding is she did not bring in the extension before the 28th, but she also did come in and she wants to amend that contract to basically asking and requesting that we waive the surface right. So what I have now is I have 3 contracts between each one of these, again, with the assistance of Mr. Howard Burgess. Take copies of these, pass them down.
It's all the same thing, right?
Each one for each
For
contract.
each one.
For each,
The terms are identical except for the name.
it's just the buyers are different.
Okay. Are these sets,
Well, I'm sorry, the terms on the 2 Hammer contracts are identical. The term, Hydrotech, because we have the thing on the title, on the description of the land is different.
You should only have one for
hammer isolation?
hammer exploration, hammer isolation, and Laredo Hydrotech. I gave you one set for each one of those.
Here's a full set, that's a full set. Here's a full set.
There's a set.
It's part of the set, that's not a full set.
I don't have one.
No, these are identical. This
All
is
right,
my
boy,
set.
that worked out well, didn't
This is a set. This is a set, and then I've got 2 extra.
There's not any aggies in here to get it.
Well, that worked out great.
I love collating comments.
Moving on, but hopefully each one of you,
Here you go, you sort that out.
Okay, so I can get them.
This is isolation,
I need
isolation.
Laredo.
This is a set, this is a set.
Okay. Get David.
I already have that one. I
And
need
this is
Laredo.
extra.
You need to read.
There's a Laredo, there's Laredo in that.
Okay.
Two cameras and a Laredo.
okay, let's start out with the first one, Laredo hydro tech.
All right.
Okay,
So
Well-
these are what we're actually giving him permission to do.
that's what we're gonna
Okay.
consider
All right,
giving him the authorization tonight on.
gotcha.
Couple of things that we're gonna have on this Laredo hydrotech. Correct me if I'm wrong around here. I believe this is a 6 acres that was part of the flood zone down further behind the property is where the big retention pond is gonna go. So there is no defined legal on this, it's all subject to a survey. So what they're, in paragraph A, it is basically defines the property here, and it talks about that there's gonna be a survey completed. Now, then, when we're surveying this out, we need to make sure that we retain an ingress and egress to the retention pond that's gonna be in the back. So it cannot be all the way across. So this is rather vague here because we don't know where it is right now. B is extending the feasibility period, and the C is extending the closing date. D is basically what we should have been requiring in all of those. Mr. Berger has incorporated this language in it. It basically gives a 15-foot setback line, utility easement around each and every part of the property so that we will be able to put in utilities and are allowed companies to put in utilities, not at our expense. So D is trying to create a setback line on the property for that. You can go ahead and read that. E is basically the seller shall reserve all minerals under the subject property, but we're waiving surface access rights. And that's pretty typical. We're gonna retain the minerals underneath it, but we're waiving our access on top of it to come in and to, put the surface on. Do you need more legal restrictions on any of that? We're privileged to have Mr. Berger here tonight to draft this good.
I do want to point out a couple of things on this, if I could. In addition to that, there are a couple of other things that are going on here. One, when I talked to Marlanda about the 6 acres, I asked her, did they need the 6 acres to be in the conservation easement, or would they take 6 acres on one of the 2 lots that we have that are still shown as belonging to us? She said, as far as she knew, Laredo Hydrotech wasn't thinking about where they got their 6 acres. So this language was consciously drafted with the idea that if we want to move it out of the conservation easement, you would be able to do that. Okay, so that's just another factor in there. Then secondly, it's not just to put a 15-foot easement around these lots. It's to be able for us to go out, and I discussed this as a strategy with Ram, to go to each of the property owners out there and try to get this set of restrictions and this set of setbacks from all of the property owners out there and see if they would all agree to it. If they do not, okay, if they do not, then this gives us, either us or the buyers, the right to back out of these contracts. Okay? And if they do back out of these contracts because of that, they get their earnest money back, period. Okay? There's no other litigation, no suit for breach of contract. They get their earnest money refunded and they go on down the road. And so that's,
So if they don't agree to this,
then we negotiate.
There'd be really no reason for them not to. The one thing I do want to ask a question on, we were led to believe by the realtor involved on this, that they had a right to force us to put roads within a certain period of time after they closed. I haven't seen any commitment contracts or anything that stated that. Have you seen any either?
I have not at this point seen anything. The obligations that were imposed upon the body were done through that interlocal agreement with the county. But that is a right that was, the enforcement of that is granted to the county, not to individual purchasers out there. Now, we
So our
can,
other contractor do have so.
yeah, now, again, this is moving into the future, but I'd also discussed with Ram that one of my steps, if you all approve me going forward on this, would be to start with getting an abstractor to run everything up current. So that when I'm asked a question, have you seen anything like this, I can say not whether I've seen it, but does it exist? You know, so I would have the file with a complete set. Right now, I have not seen anything that would require it. On the other hand, you know, not having the roads out there is a significant problem.
I do have a question. You know, you talk about the surface rights, so does that mean actually that we still retain a portion of minerals on the property or not?
Surface access, right?
Right.
Is that different?
Well, go ahead and explain.
Yeah, let me try that. I'm gonna move forward.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. The mineral right, we talk about the surface estate and the mineral estate as two different estates in the land, okay? They're separate. The mineral estate carries with it ordinarily the right to use so much of the surface as is necessary to develop the minerals. Okay, so ordinarily, the mineral estate gives the mineral owner the right to drill on their property without the surface owner's consent, without any damages payable to the mineral owner. I mean, basically, they can go in and use as much of the surface as they need to develop it. It has become fairly common since the development of the new tract forms on the sales of real estate with a mineral rider for us to say that we waive surface access rights. And what that means is that piece of the mineral estate we take away and we say, no, we don't have that. That goes with the surface. But with the advent of horizontal drilling, what that means is that someone would drill off-site and would pool us in or would drill underneath.
So what percentage of the mineral interest did we retain on this? Or?
On this, we are retaining everything we've got.
Everything, okay.
Whatever we
Yeah,
have.
the only issue they had was the language is pretty restrictive on access. Is that correct? I mean, there was a.
I think they were afraid, scared of, they buy it and then they come in there and they put a big drilling pad right on it.
Yeah.
And then they lose use
I
of the
read
land.
that too, and I thought that was a little
Yeah.
Now,
stiff. as far as-
Texas Railroad Commission has restrictions on how close you can drill the structures anyway, but on a yard like this, where they're needing a preponderance of it, it would probably be detrimental to them to have a bit of oil
Yeah,
platform.
and I apologize for the question. I just read E clear as day, so my apologies.
Yeah, move back.
How does this affect the first couple of places that got sold with the mineral rights?
If we have already conveyed the property with the mineral rights attached, then they own the minerals already, and they can do whatever they wish with the development of those minerals.
But you could actually still get pulled into some property.
They could lease it, and somebody could drill a well out there, and yes, he could then at that point come to see us.
Right.
That doesn't give anybody that we might be selling property to grounds to come back and say, well, you sold them the mineral rights. They don't have a legal.
We do not have a uniform set of restrictions at this point, and so, no, the buyers are all individual. And part of a big chunk of D was to try to go back and make a uniform set of restrictions at this point.
What I'd like to do, I believe for simplicity, if we're gonna take each one of these, we have first the Laredo hydro test, and I'm gonna bring that up for consideration and action, for us to authorize Ram to execute execute this amendment, this extension and amendment to the earnest money contract.
Make a motion that we amend the earnest money contract for Laredo Hydro Tech LP dated July 30th, 2012 as presented.
A motion.
I'll second.
We have a second by Mary Helen Deacon. So we have a motion and a second to amend the earnest money contract by between Floresville Economic Development Corporation and Laredo Hydro Tech dated July the 30th, 2012. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passed. If we can now, we're going to move to Hammer Isolation LLC. This one is proportionately similar to the other one. I guess the main difference is there's more defined piece of property here. That one was ambiguous on the location and the 6 acres. This is more set forth in the contract that we have. So it's A is just extending the feasibility period, B is the closing, C is the trying to formalize and standardize some of the setback lines, and D this time is the mineral reservation. And again, I think we need to do consideration and action on this one contract instead of
I move that we amend the earnest money contract between Florida FEDC and Hammer Isolation LLC.
we have a motion. We have a second.
I'll second.
And Mary Helen second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor of amendment to earnest money contract by and between Floresville Economic Development Corp. and Hammer Isolation LLC dated July 30th, 2012, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. And finally, we're going to talk about the contract with Hammer Exploration. This, like the one to Hammer Isolation, is similar, except it's different piece of property. So it's A is extension of feasibility period, B is the closing, C is the standardization and the setback lines and all, and D is for the reservation of minerals with waiving surface access rights.
Contract by between the FEDC and Hammer Exploration LP dated July 30th, 2012, as presented, and by Howard Fisher.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Mary Helen Teakin and Mike Curry to amend the earnest money contract by and between Floresville Economic Development Corp. and Hammer Exploration date July 30th, 2012, and authorize Ram Ramirez to execute contract. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Moving on to D. Item D, consideration and action to engage in hiring an attorney to assist in real estate transactions designated by FEDC board has to be negotiated in attorney representation agreement. We have any discussion items or on this?
I think each and every one has a copy of the correspondence between meeting that I had with Howard and things that we discussed, and I think it pretty well explains the situation that we're presently in, and hopefully that if the board decides to he assists us in the legal aspect of these real estate transactions, that we could get everything focused in the right direction.
Just a couple of things to point out on it. One, it is, this is my standard attorney representation agreement, the one I normally use for clients. Two, this is limited to specific assigned real estate transactions. Y'all's attorney is Dominic, and I think on occasion you use Lou. I've got a lot of confidence in both of them, so I'm here helping out on whatever assigned real estate transactions you all want to get. And then three, the letter I think also spells out the strategy that Ram and I talked about how to go about assisting in finalizing everything on the industrial park. And the good news is to the extent I've looked at it so far, it looks like things are maybe in better shape than I thought they were at the start of this. It looks like, I was thinking this, I think I quoted to Rand, this would be maybe a 6-month process to get it all straightened out. I think it may move significantly further than that.
Mr. Berger, as you and I have dealt, I've been in Floresville 27 years, and I think we've been dealing and working with each other that long. Would you continue to be receptive to, if it becomes necessary for us to obtain funds through financing for anything? Would you, is your expertise be able, through the legal and professional, be able to assist us in that? And would you be willing?
I'd be happy to help out, like I said, on discrete projects, whatever the discrete project is, yes.
And the interlocal agreement?
Yes, I will help out with the interlocal agreement because I wrote that thing.
Yeah.
So, actually, I wrote it, Russell revised, and then I rewrote it, and then Russell re-revised it, but yes.
I think what we're trying to set here is a place that Howard has the experience, he's been working with it, he's helped us and assisted us, can assist us with the negotiation of the contract, trying to maybe work through some of these issues. If it becomes a consideration that we won't need to obtain financing to complete that project out there, Howard's experience in that, and time warrants and different other financing options, so we have a little bit of expertise we can fall back on that assistance at that time. Did notice he's not charging anything, retainer fees or anything in here. It looks like a pretty standard contract.
So this is basically on a case-by-case basis,
As assigned. Yes.
but only on real estate.
Real estate and things that are relatively closely related to it. I don't think I'm going to be writing any more time warrants, okay? With the Certificate of Obligation Act, I think we got out of time warrants where we're both showing our age and that we know what we're talking about.
Well, like you said, Howard is very efficient as well, and I would like to make a motion that we hire Howard Berger, attorney at law, on a case-by-case basis to negotiate and transact real estate and matters pertaining to that, and other matters pertaining to that.
We have a motion by Jason Tye, second by Mike Curry, to engage and hire Berger to assist in real estate transactions as designated by FEDC board as be negotiated, as was negotiated presented in the attorney representation agreement. Do I have any other further discussions at this time? If not, I'm going to call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mr. Howard.
Look forward to working with y'all.
The last item of consideration and action to review and finalize payment, if any, to Liz Rosenberg regarding this invoice. I believe you'll have an invoice in front of you. long story short, there's some question here, some foul up, and at this point in time, we're gonna need to possibly pass on this action. Lou asked that we not consider this at this time, because this is an invoice that he was working about. The mayor came in here, and there's some items on here that's not ours, that thing, so at this point in time, with your permission, I would like to table this. So can I have someone please make a motion to table?
I make a motion that we table item E on the March 4th agenda.
I said,
I have a motion by Jason Kelly, second by Mary Helen Ticken, to table the final of the invoice related to Louis Rosenberg, invoice number 225. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passed. Now, we can't have just a general discussion here because it's not agendized. If there's anything else need to bring before the board that is permissible.
when is our next scheduled meeting?
April 8th? Well, the 1st, April 1st.
Did we change to the
You
second
know,
Monday?
we had talked about trying to change that possibly to the
Second week.
And the purpose in that was to get your bank statements in so that we'd have everything
So
for
the
the
8th
current month.
is,
Oh, that's the
no,
2013, April 8th,
What does that say?
Holocaust Day, Memory Day.
All right, so
Still at 6:30?
well, it's up to y'all. Y'all
I'll
go
go
like
6:30
6:30?
myself. So,
If there's nothing else come before the board, I have a motion to adjourn.
I so moved.